Okay, so I made an oopsie, or as we call it in the industry, an oopsie poopsie. In my last video, I talked about the new lunar item, Long-Standing Solitude, and I completely trashed it. I even went as far as to put it as the worst item in the game, ranking it as #1, and I have to say, I was completely wrong here. This item is pretty good and should not have been ranked #1. Now, my rationale for thinking it was bad was actually pretty solid. The reason I thought it was bad is because experience in Risk of Rain 2 is hyperbolic. It gets progressively harder each level up, and you eventually reach kind of a soft cap. You generally don't see yourself getting much higher than level 40 in most runs. In my 24-hour on stage 1 video, I only got to level 42, and then in my 1000 stage video, I only got to level 59, which is the highest level I think I've ever gotten legit. And I crunched the numbers, and that takes about 5 trillion XP to get there, which is a lot, but it's nowhere near the 18 quintillion 500 quadrillion XP that it would take to get to the level cap. So even if you're doubling your XP, you have no chance in hell of ever seeing that level cap. That part of the video was correct, but what I failed to realize is this item's description lies to you. Out of all of the items in the expansion, this is the one that I have by far used the least, and every time I did, I only noticed it giving me a few extra levels a run, so I kind of assumed that the description was just telling the truth. This was a fatal mistake. You cannot trust descriptions, especially in Seekers of the Storm. So after I uploaded that video, I started seeing a lot of comments saying I was wrong, you know, go step on a Lego, that type of thing, which is normal. But what stuck out to me were the comments that said I got to level 94 within my first loop, which is very intriguing because as I understand it, that should be impossible, right? I then watched RND's tier list, which, you know, side note, I have some disagreements with, but he put this item in S tier and he did a pretty good job of demonstrating why it was effective. So I went to do some testing of my own, and what I found was pretty shocking. To show you what I mean, let's run a little test here. Okay, so I'm gonna give myself 5 roll of pennies. I'm also gonna give myself some wraps. And we're gonna spawn in a grandparent. Let's just give myself some watches for a second just to damage him. Starts doing his thing. Okay, let's take those away. Okay. Now let's see what we got here. So you'll notice I'm getting a decent amount of gold. Going up pretty fast. It's not 18 quintillion, but it's a good amount, probably enough to loot the stage. Now I'm going to go ahead and give myself Long-Standing Solitude. And what we should see is it very quickly get me to like level 30, but then kind of slow down around level 30 or 40, around that point, right? So let's see what happens. It's a direct translation of gold to XP. You can see down here, it's a little odd. Doesn't seem like it's really slowing down at all. In fact, it seems like it's pretty linear. I don't notice much of a difference so far between level 1 and level 13. So let's just sit here for a minute and see if we can get to level cap. So I've been sitting here for about a minute and it has not slowed down at all. It's going at a pretty steady pace through level 1, level 2, level 3. It's all kind of doing the same thing. And if I sit here for another minute or two, I'm going to get to level 94 pretty quickly. And there we go. I have reached level cap, and it took me just about 5 minutes. This would go even faster because this is technically on stage 1 here. If I was on like stage 5 or something, the money would be scaled way higher. So I can imagine it would probably take like a minute or two if I was doing that, which is very interesting. So obviously what you're seeing here is Long-Standing Solitude fundamentally changes this mechanic of the game. Getting level cap is pretty easy if you have some economy items. And I have to say, RND was right. This item is pretty great. I don't know if I'd call it S tier. It still has some pretty big limitations. The main one being the level 94 cap. Once you reach level 94, you're just kind of done. You can't open any more chests, and you can get yourself soft locked in Gilded Coast. The only way to get around this is obviously if you get rid of it by putting it in a cleansing pool or just cheating it out of your inventory. So this is something you definitely have to try and manage while you're playing. Level 94 also isn't as powerful as you might think it is. I feel like it's about 10 to 15 watches, which is great, but it's not like you're gonna be one-tapping everything. You still have to kind of fight the enemies. It's still powerful, don't get me wrong. It's just not gonna be as instrumental to your run, I think, as something like Headset might be. I think the bigger benefit here is actually the health bar. You get 2 or 3 times more health which is just insane. I feel like you really shouldn't be dying at level 94, especially pre-loop. I've tested this item a lot more within the last couple days, and I don't think this is an item you really necessarily want to pick up in the early game. I think it kind of hinges on you getting some economy items first. I would maybe consider it around stages 3 and 4. Overall, though, this is definitely a great item, and I didn't give it nearly enough credit in my last video. So I just want to apologize for getting that wrong. I shouldn't have been so trusting with the description, and I should have done more testing before I labeled it as the worst item in the expansion. I'm going to try and learn from this and do better in the future. I really don't want to spread misinformation on this channel. It might seem like I'm blowing this out of proportion. At the end of the day, it is just a stupid video game item, but I am a pretty big voice in the community, and I feel like I would be doing you guys a disservice if I didn't call this out. So I just want to take this opportunity to set the record straight. That's it. Top 10 best items in the expansion is coming out in a few days, and you bet your bottom this item is going to be on there. All right, that's it. Ta-ta for now.